Yep. There is the network. By the time we're done here, we will define the purpose of CDP and LLDP and explain how it's used in the network space. As you might imagine, my kids are somewhat confused as to why I keep coming into their room and I'm like, I'm taking that. So Cisco Discovery Protocol actually was one of the handiest protocols in the world long before Link Layer Discovery Protocol was out there. This was originally defined in its original design as a way of discovering what network devices were around you for the purposes of charting out an unmapped network. See, oftentimes back then, and we haven't changed much, still today, the network diagram is not up to date or sometimes doesn't even exist at all. And so you'll have consultants or newly hired network engineers who are coming in to replace someone who's left, trying to figure out what's going on, and they're like, I have no idea. So Cisco Discovery Protocol was created back then to allow you to go into a Cisco device and you could type in, and I think you've seen in other skills that I've created, show CDP neighbors. And you can see what devices are directly attached around you. And that's one of the things to know about this protocol is that it's designed to discover directly attached devices. So, for example, when I'm accessing a network, and let's just say I only have access to one device. I only, maybe my console port is plugged into that switch. Now, you could go around with your console port and try and figure out where all these devices go, but that is virtually impossible because sometimes the cables go everywhere. So you log into this switch, and you do obviously have to have access to the device. Type in show CDP neighbors, and you would see, for instance, if this switch is connected to two other switches, you would see only those two other switches. And then if you were to, from there, telnet or SSH to one of those devices, because CDP is able to discover what IP addresses are there, what iOS version they're running, and all that kind of stuff, you could see, oh, I'm connected to another router, so I'll telnet to that, and I can do show CDP neighbors here. And so again, it's a device-by-device basis. It's not just going to print out every device in the network. If I was on this device, I would see this, and obviously if my ISP was running CDP, which they would definitely not be unless they were one of the worstly secured ISPs in the world, worstly, then you would not see this. And that's one of the things that we're going to discover as we get into this, is how we can turn on CDP and LLDP globally and also on an interface-by-interface basis. So if that's the case, if that's what this does, why LLDP? Well, the world is big, and CDP lasted. I mean, I remember when I first learned Cisco 1999-ish, CDP was the only thing available, and it was like that for a long time. I don't remember exact date, but when the industry finally came out with LLDP, I was like, wow, it's about time. I mean, CDP, Cisco, had actually started licensing this to other organizations like HP. Ironically, they became bitter competitors later on in life. But HP was one of the ones that licensed it from them. But that was the weakness of it. CDP was designed for Cisco and Cisco alone. So Link Layer Discovery Protocol came about and opened this up to all the other vendors. So now it's an industry standard tool. Now it still does network discovery, so we can see Cisco devices and non-Cisco devices, but it's also used as a carrier/communication tool. Now, don't interpret this as carrier like a service provider or ISP kind of thing. What I mean is a carrier like a train is a carrier. So LLDP, and by the way, Cisco CDP did the same thing. It's just, obviously there's now an industry standard one available, so everybody's sort of tending that way, although Cisco usually keeps CDP turned on just because. When you create something, you're proud of it, right? So LLDP nowadays is the one that everybody is moving towards, and they have these little, we'll call them train cars, follow them. Now, that's typically called TLV fields. Type, length, value fields. So what I'm trying to show you with this is LLDP is expandable. LLDP itself is an industry standard way of just sending updates every X amount of time, but you can actually put all kinds of things in these cars. So for example, the name of the device could be one of the type length value fields. What IP address is, and IP could be one of the things. It could be IPv4, could be IPv6, could be other protocols that you put in there. What IP address is in there? Ooh, I almost forgot. I got to tell you, these guys run at layer 2. That's significant. And by the way, that's why they call it link layer discovery, like as in data link layer, right? The reason that's significant is because you can discover devices that are misconfigured. See, that's one of the things. You might be trying to telnet to a device. You're like, man, the documentation doesn't make sense. It doesn't, this can't be accurate. Well, you can do a show LLDP neighbors or show CDP neighbors, either one, and you'll be able to see the IP address of the remote device, even if they're on a different subnet. Even if they have no IP address, you can see it because it's running the layer below the network layer, right? Below the IP addressing layer. So the cool thing is we don't know where this is going to end. For instance, one of the things that I've seen happen here, and you may have seen it if you've seen the skill on power over Ethernet. LLDP was modified. They added a TLV field so that when you attach a device, let's just say this is a big woolly device with eyes and a mouth, and you plug that into your network switch, if it's PoE, it'll first come out and say, okay, let me deliver power. And once it comes on and the device starts powering up, grows hair, it will actually come back. I need one of those devices. It comes back and says, let me negotiate, and let me tell you more specifically how much power I'm going to need. And it does that by using a little train car. It can negotiate power up to little 1 watt increments. So it can say, hey, you delivered, let's just say 15.4 watts. It's the old standard of PoE, but I only need, 2 watts to cause my, little hair to grow on whatever device that is, right? So that will then supply power back to the power budget of the switch overall. Most of those kind of things all happen behind the scenes. Most of what you and I will use CDP and LLDP for is network discovery. And we're going to see how to do that in some of the upcoming videos. For now, we have seen the purpose of CDP and LLDP and explained how it's used in the network space. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.